Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, by fans, for fans, where all the content is absolutely free, coming to you in association with Forest Precision Engineering. I'm your host tonight, Brian Archer, and as always guys, we'd encourage you to get onto the Gersnet website and check out our forums for all your latest Rangers news and discussion over at gersnet.co.uk. As we close in on 6,000 subscribers, we'd also ask you to share the pod on social media, spread the word, tell your friends and family, tell people you don't know, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you'll never miss an episode. Before I introduce my guest for tonight, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forest Precision Engineering. They are a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we're delighted to have them supporting the pod. If you want more information about them, please visit their website over at www.foresteng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand. And for more information on that, please email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, now to bring in my guest for tonight, and there's only one man that I would have to accompany me on my Gersnet live pod hosting debut, and that is the stats guru himself, Alex Anderson. Alex, I feel like we've seen a lot of each other recently, but how are you doing?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Well, that stats guru, I can say it's 3 pods in the trot. Three pods in 7 days. So that's the first stat to start with. Not bad, mate. It's been good fun. And you were my guest, my first time live hosting. So we must be doing something right. And I hate, there's nothing worse than somebody who, every time you give them a compliment, they kind of go, no, that's no true. But I need to keep knocking back this stats guru thing. I've been seeing all this stuff about, was it Nicholas Raskin? Or the XGs and all this. I have no idea what. Somebody said he's a 6, and I was thinking, like, he's 6 foot. He gets 6 goals a season. What, 6 million he's going to cost? Is it? No, he's a CM on a D8. What's a CM on a D8? Apparently, he's just a wee guy who runs about the midfield getting stuck in. That I can understand. That's a level of my knowledge, mate. How are you doing yourself anyway? You all right?
I'm good. We'll maybe go on to talking about Nicholas Raskin a bit later. Yeah. But unlike last week's preview pod, this week we do have a midweek game to discuss. So we'll kick off with looking back at our trip to Rugby Park. Also, we spoke a lot about this on our preview pod last week about which team that Beale would go with. Was there any surprises for you?
You could maybe say Scott Wright. His omission was a surprise, given that he was put forward to do the presser the day before, but that seems to be becoming a thing with Beale. I wasn't surprised that John McLaughlin was in goals, despite us being told on the day before's presser that Alan McGregor was the best goalkeeper in Scotland. He was going to be picked for most games on the Beale, because it's getting to that kind of situation. You're reading between the lines with Michael. But I have to apologise, hold my hands. I was saying I thought we should have started with Ryan Jack. I know he played 120 minutes against Aberdeen, the semi-final at Hampden, but I thought it was worth starting with. Because number one, he played so well in that game. I think you've got to maintain a tempo. I think sometimes you've got to let it kind of breathe if you do really well. And again, or you get a good result, a player has a good game, get him starting the next game, and if he needs a rest, well, you can take him off, and hopefully you're at least on top in the game, if not 2 or 3 goals up. Tillman, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't really surprised. I would prefer to have seen him starting. Basically, I would have went with the same team that started at Hampden, I think. But listen, it all worked out well in the end. But as I say, Jack, Beale mentioned it in his presser today. He's got an ongoing kind of injury concern, so the pitch there at Rugby Park wouldn't suit him. But I think I was also thrown in terms of that, because I can't help remembering. Well, Rugby Park was a bit of a nightmare venue for us over the last 5 or 6 years. Whenever Kilmarnock been in the top flight at the same time as us, and we went there in 55. Luckily, it was almost like Kilmarnock ended up bottom half. We wanted to go to Rugby Park once during the 55 season, and Ryan Jack quarterbacked that game, something magnificent that day. So I have this image of Ryan Jack being magnificent on the plastic at Kilmarnock. So I got kind of obsessed that he hadn't started. And when we were struggling, I thought it's because we hadn't played Ryan Jack. But as I say, it all worked out in the end, mate. So that was the main thing.
Yeah, it did all work out in the end, but it was another poor start to a game where we conceded an early goal. And for the first 15 to 20 minutes, I thought we looked way off it, to be honest. This Rangers team seemed to have a unique ability to make relegation-threatened teams look like Real Madrid at the moment in the opening stages. What do you think there's a reason for that, or for these poor starts, and how do you think Michael Beale fixes it? I know he kind of alluded to it at his press conference today, but do you think he's obviously aware of it? Do you think he's kind of got a bit of a plan how to fix it? Do you think it's maybe just a case of tightening up, more time on the training pitch, or what?
It's good that he puts it out there. I think the one good thing, well, there's many good things obviously, but Beale, mostly that he's winning most of his games, that he's been in charge so far. But one of the good things about him is he faces up to any problems. He's the kind of first one. I remember when we scored those 2 goals up at Pittodrie in injury time. I think all of us were a bit huffy. The funniest thing about that game was everybody that was watching that game up at Pittodrie, reading the comments on social media, going by my own reaction when we equalised to make it 2 each, like in the 95th minute. Everybody was just like, yeah, so what? Don't care about a draw, still 2 points. But when we then scored again 2 seconds later, the whole of Beardham was going absolutely mental, except for Michael Beale, who you can see standing there just thinking, never mind the result, the performance is garbage. So he definitely acknowledges these things, and he's obviously working on it. I think it's muscle memory, if I'm honest, Brian. I think not just the tail end of Gio's reign, when the players were clearly kind of just disenchanted with Gio and his methods. I think it's also something that a lot of Rangers fans have been criticising or diagnosing. This is the diagnosis they've been given for any problems we've had of late, is that so many players have been there for so long. And they've only had, in the eyes of a lot of Rangers supporters, they've only had one successful season. Most of this squad being the 55 season, which is crazy given that we got to a European final last year and won the Scottish Cup and qualified for the Champions League this season, which was a massive thing. But I think it's there's too many bad memories almost for them to slip back into taking the pitch at Rugby Park, even taking the pitch at Ibrox. It's just instantly you're back in that mould where you've been lately, you've not been playing well, the crowd's been on your back, and I think they're just slipping back into it. But the beautiful thing is I think in terms of analysing Beale's influence, it's almost kind of laboratory test conditions. You can see them being the bad team they were under Gio at the end, the bad team they were even at times under Beale and Gerrard. But you can also see then how Beale has made a difference because they play their way back into the game. He's obviously telling them to play in a different style and what have you. He's got Kent moving about, Lundstrom sitting between the 2 centre halves, etc., for like a starting position. Wee things like that you can see, but the main thing you can see is them dragging themselves out this kind of torpor they've been in. There's that old cliche, kind of old adage about confidence being something that you gain in inches, but you lose it in yards. You lose it in feet. Probably we've certainly the confidence has seeped out our feet over the last few games, but over the last few months. But it's coming back slowly, and I think he's definitely attacking it. It's almost like they need Michael Beale to be like we're joking about last week. They should have headphones on the park where he could be talking to them. But I think what everybody's thinking is, well, if they can come back at the start of the second half and they've had a word from you and that's helped them, how can you not have that same word with them at the beginning of the game? Because it's really apparent. It was kind of the opposite. They started really well against Aberdeen at Hampden, but didn't get a goal from it. And that seems to be one of the things. We don't often get a goal from our periods of pressure, but opposition teams get ripped into us for 5 minutes and they get a goal straight away, as Kilmarnock did the other night. So there's a fragility about us, but we seem to be working our way out of it.
Yeah, no, you're right to say we're working our way out of it. I thought after the kind of initial 15-20 minutes, I felt we got a grip of the game and settled down a bit. The equaliser came in the 23rd minute. Now, before we come to speak about the goal scorer, I want to get your thoughts on Fashion Sakala, who provided the assist with a really clever run to get in behind. Somewhat surprisingly, he's become a bit of a kind of important player for us since Beale took over. And he's really started to make that right-hand side attacking role his own. I know there was a section of the support club, myself included, that felt we should maybe sell Sakala and that he wasn't good enough. But is this another example of the need to give players time to find their feet at Rangers? I know people say we'll never get time at Rangers, but I'm particularly thinking in Sakala's case, he's been in and out of the team, he's been moved positions, he's been played wide, he's been played up front, he's never really had a settled role. But is this just another example of that kind of need for patience?
Yeah, it's also a need for players to be given a chance to prove that they can do something. I think Sakala, and it helps that it was Beale was part of the team, the management team that brought Sakala to Ibrox in the first place. So they probably had an idea of how to utilise him. Beale would have been heavily involved, you would hope, in the decision to bring him here. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic, wasn't it? You're absolutely right. He's become the kind of, if we want to take these, 8 games now, 8 competitive games under Beale, that kind of mini season, he's maybe the most improved player of the season. I think there's a case for saying maybe Kent has been the best. Both in terms of improvement and also what he actually gives to a game. But Sakala would be pushing him close to be the best player under Beale so far. He was, I think, case in point the other night, not only did he have that magical turn, turning Big Ash Taylor for the first goal and the beautiful ball he played across to the back post for Alfie, he's involved in the other 2 goals as well, just by dint of his running. It's Ryan Kent is trying to pick out Fashion Sakala before the ball eventually comes back to Ryan Kent when he goes through in the 51st minute, 52nd minute for our second goal. When Ryan Kent goes through, it's Sakala he's aiming for, because Sakala has made a long burst and fantastically perceptive run. And he's on the move the whole time on that ball before we kind of faffing about, but before we eventually put it in the net. Sakala's offering himself all the time, and it's the same. He plays a lovely ball into the kind of centre of the Kilmarnock box, on the move, on the run, for the build up to our third goal. And again, Alfie's going kind of between the 2 posts. Sakala's getting himself over at the back post. His positional sense is fantastic. I know sometimes his shooting can be a bit erratic, a bit comical at times, but I don't like. I've got to admit, this maybe might seem a bit, overly PC or whatever, but Michael Beale's as guilty of it as anybody else. It's not badly meant, but I think this whole thing about he's a lovely smiley character, it's borderline racist at times. It's the kind of, it's almost that kind of, I don't know, imperial kind of idea of what we want people from Africa to behave like. It's quite sinister, I find, at times. I think it's also BS. I think it's also Fashion Sakala. He's happy to play along with that. He is a bubbly character. He is an upbeat guy, but I think he's hard as nails. Somebody to hold back like that, be kind of pushed out the team and come back the way he has, ready to go. He's always ready to go. This guy scored a hat-trick at Fir Park for his last season. Yeah. Not many Rangers players get hat-tricks these days. And we're getting to a point the other night, it was a case of Alfredo Morelos gets 2 goals, Ryan Kent gets 1, and we've got somebody absolutely doing the business on that wide right role. This is the way it was supposed to be. This is the way it was supposed to be for years, for 2-3 seasons. We've all been super frustrated, and it's just typically at the point where people are starting to get rid of Morelos, get rid of Kent, that they're all coming back in together, and that wide right role, showing why Scott Wright didn't get a game the other night. I think Fashion Sakala has been a revelation, and I'm really happy for him. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. Now, getting to half-time level, I was fairly relaxed, and again, we came out for the second half with renewed confidence and dynamism in our play. I felt, you spoke about the Ryan Kent goal there. I thought, he did really well to make space in the box. After it looked like the initial chance might have gone, I thought he did really well to kind of make some space for himself and then finish. And again, it seems like this team really reacts to a talking to from the manager at half-time to kind of get it going again. We've seen that in previous games under Beale, Hibs at Ibrox, and thinking again we saw it up at Tannadice. Do you think that speaks to Beale as a manager and his ability to make kind of tactical changes at the break, or is it more of a concern that they're actually needed in the first place?
Good question, and I really don't have an answer, because it's spot on, and I think it's going to take a few more months before we know for sure. Because the one thing I would say, it looks good just now. It looks at the fact he can diagnose problems at half time, and they come out. I mean, we come out the second half the other night and we did dominate, and that's, I know this is what happens when we do three pods in a week. I end up saying the same things again, but I said it to Colin as well in a post-match pod at Hampden last Sunday. We have a good 45 minutes every game, I would say. It's around about 45 minutes that we play the way we want Rangers to play. And it's how we've been spreading that 45 minutes throughout the 90 or throughout the 120 as it was at Hampden. And I think we come back into the game, as you say, when Alfie scored that goal the other night. Well, literally come back into it because we equalised, but it'd been a panicky start, a terrible start. We were awful. But then we're playing back into the game and we come back out the second half, that first, right from the off. They were right at it. They were totally dominating. We actually missed quite a lot of chances. We're making bad choices, as we've been wont to do, especially Ryan Kent. There's a lot of talk about how Ryan Kent makes the wrong decisions. He's a cracking player, Ryan Kent. Total quality, all the technical ability, all the running, all the commitment, but he just makes the wrong choices every now and then. And even before his goal, he made the wrong choice in the pass he tried to make to Fashion Sakala. It eventually comes back to him when he scores. But we went at it. We didn't let that get us down. We kept going, and that's all we're looking for. That's why Sakala is such a revelation just now, such a breath of fresh air, because he's making us. This is the stuff we've been looking for. Under Gio, it was a horseshoe. It was a bit stagnant at times. We looked a bit curtailed. But we've just been out there and just got stuck in, not let kind of misses or bad passes put us off. We've just kept up this momentum. So it's great that Beale can make them do that. But I think maybe I'm misremembering this, but I think it was the same thing under Gio. And it's almost like, because we had 7 league wins in the trot, when Gio first started, those, a draw at Lyon, a win over Sparta Prague, I think it was his first 9 games, everything was rosy under Gio, and we're now getting, it's the 9th competitive game for Beale on Saturday.
At least this time we don't have a winter break to ruin it.
That's exactly it. And I think, as Chris Boyd was saying the other night as well, it's where Gio started slipping up, where his run started coming to an end, was a bad draw at Pittodrie, a bad draw at Dingwall, and then obviously getting tanked off Celtic, whereas, Beale's already dealt with those fixtures. At Tannadice as well, even Hibs at Ibrox can be difficult for us. League Cup semi-finals can be difficult for us. He's got through all these awkward fixtures. So I just won't be 100% sure for the last few games yet. But I think Gio could sort us out at half time as well. That happened a lot. And I think they need to sometimes players when they're, particularly Gio's the same situation. He's coming mid-season. He's joining the team mid-season. So the players are in a mould. They've been set up in pre-season to play a certain way. So they need to be reminded whether what they were doing the first half of the season or the other manager was good or bad. It's in their legs. They need somebody to remind them sometimes. No, this is the way you're supposed to be playing now. Because it's hard to get it out of your system, playing under a different manager. But I think he's definitely doing the business so far. And as long as he keeps getting the results, obviously he gets more than the benefit of the doubt. We're right behind him just now.
Yeah. Now, Alfie finished the Rangers scoring with a header after a quality delivery by Barisic, who I thought had a pretty decent game after the horror show for the Aberdeen goal last weekend. I wouldn't have been shocked to see Devine start, if I'm honest. Now, look at Alfie. I thought that was his best game in recent weeks. He seemed to have a bit of that old kind of Morelos devilment back in his game. He was giving it to the Killie fans after he scored. They was having a bit of a tussle with Armstrong. Could this just signify the return to the kind of old Alfie that we know and love? Is that maybe him just getting a bit of that back?
I certainly hope so. I think he's been, it's like Ryan Kent. I could never really lose faith. I could never really let him go. I could never really write off Ryan Kent. I was as frustrated as anybody else that he wasn't getting the numbers. They always talk about the numbers, but I think you see Ryan Kent's involvement in Ryan Jack's goal at Hampden last week is absolutely magical. And I think, but it goes to Alfredo before it goes to Jack. So he doesn't get a number, so to speak. And this was happening to Morelos during 55 season. He's not getting goals, he's not getting assists. But if you watch the games, he was the assist to the assist. He was making the space for the other striker to score, whatever, whoever else would score the goal. So I think Ryan Jack and Ryan Kent particularly, I was on board with him. Alfie, it was easier. He was just starting to get so frustrated. You can see him physically not caring. So many times it's happened in his Rangers career that he's not even turned up for games. He cost us the Scottish Cup, in Gerrard's second season, away to Hearts. He didn't turn up, had to be dropped after because we'd won away in Braga. Without him, he was suspended, so he's kind of in a big huff with us. Some of the stuff he's done is terrible. Yeah. But when he does that, it's almost annoying. And I think that's a big thing with a lot of Rangers supporters just now, myself included. You just want things to be, why does Kamaruv get injured all the time when he's so good? Why does Alfie behave like that when he could be so good? Just go out there and do your best, And we forget he's a guy that obviously struggles with his English and he's a long way from home and all that. And there's a different way of doing things in South America. One of them being a way to get at an opposition crowd in South America is if you can get one of their players sent off, which is what he did with the very first few seconds of the game. And I'm never sure about that. The kind of British way of thinking, Presbyterian, whatever you want to say. It's like, you shouldn't be hitting the deck straight away trying to get an opponent sent off. That's no way to get. In South America, it is. But I feel as if he was trying. I was convinced he was trying to get himself sent off. But I sent out a tweet at the time, just before he scored, saying, "Is this Alfie doing that bit of bam pottery that we need? We need somebody who can get down and dirty with his opposition teams. He's no good at it. He's not subtle at fouls." But I thought when he scores the goal, obviously, that helps his case, and you're like, he's on the edge. And I think that's something that a lot of times he's been totally negligent. Like, we're playing against the Derek McInnes team the other night. We played against Graham Shinney last Sunday for Aberdeen, and McInnes' Aberdeen. Remember them coming to Ibrox and Alfie trying to hit that stupid foul. Just look at me hitting, Graham Shinney. And it's like, no, if you're going to do that, take the guy out to play altogether. He's terrible at fouling people. He's terrible at even just putting the boot in. He's terrible at the reasons he gets red cards are pathetic. They don't do us any good. But I think there's been times where I remember the game at Tannadice during the 55 season where we won up there. and we're under pressure. And the big fella, Alfredo, he gets cited by the compliance officer later. It wasn't picked up by the referee at the time because we didn't have VAR at the time. But there was a big, I can't remember the guy's name. I don't think he's at United anymore, but I think Irish fella, and he was putting himself about. He was putting about, and he was causing a lot of problems. Basically, he would have probably been sent off by VAR before the incident, and Alfie goes up and just sticks one on him. And it's like, it was needed. We only won that game 2-1. And the Irish fella was quiet after that. He did. I think sometimes we need him behaving that way. I was the other night, I'm like, why do you keep having a go at the commander? They're all wee Waynes in that East Stand at Rugby Park. You've got it, because Clancy's actually got a hold of him saying, don't do that. Yeah. I never mind. Hey, get off it. It's just,
I had flashbacks to the Motherwell one where he gets sent off for giving the gesture. That's
it, but I don't think it was so much he got away. He just played himself into the game. He enjoyed himself. Certainly after that, he was still gesturing to him when he got his second goal, but it was lovely to see. He loves scoring against Kilmarnock. The stats tell us that, but I think what Beale's been saying about him pressers, how he's injured. He's actually been coming.
Yeah.
He looks fat to us, and I've certainly been criticising him for that, which is totally hypocritical given the state of me. But I think he really needs a bit more understanding just now. I think he is trying his guts out for Beale, and I think I was harsh last week. I thought he was looking slow and all that last week, but I watched the game back in the cold light of day, the Aberdeen game at Hampden, and he was involved, not just in the set up for we're equalising goal for Ryan Jack. He is the pinpoint of that attack. He certainly does give us something else, a different dimension that nobody else at Ibrox just now can give us. So I just hope it's the turnaround, mate. And we get a few more goals from him. I think we'll be back on board the Alfie bus.
Yeah, and one of the potential issues on the horizon is that both goal scorers being out of contract in the summer. Now, is this a case of we should do all we can to get both tied up, or is it maybe a case of having to choose one over the other? I mean, losing both on a free would leave a huge and expensive void to fill in the team. What do you think about, is it maybe a case of having to choose one or other, or should we just be trying to do all we can to keep both of them?
And I wonder if that's why Alfie is playing a bit better, because it's January. That's the other thing. We can't. He is a bugger. You can't rely on him. And Steven Gerrard basically said that as well. We know why he plays well in the Europa League. Nobody's kidding themselves on that he's not wanting a bigger move. But if he thinks he's not in danger of getting no move, then he's going to start doing the business in January. I'd hate the idea that he just fades away again in February, because he's got me thinking, keep Alfie, and I think Kent's a definite. And I think he's the more likely as well, despite the noises he was making in that post-match interview in Sky on Wednesday night. I think it sounds like he's ready to sign on. Obviously, he's known Michael Beale for years, since the Liverpool youth system, and the first time he was at Ibrox. So, and obviously Michael Beale is getting the best out of him as well. So I would love to see Ryan Kent staying, and I think it looks like more than likely he will. And I would go with Big Alfie as well. What the hell? Give him another go. I would definitely get him signed up. And I don't think it's either or with them. I think you would want to have the two of them, and I think it's going to be Glenn Kamara, goes to maybe kind of help finance that, or the Raskin move or whatever. And we've got enough other, not dead wood, but there's other players that we can get off the wage bill who look likely to come off the wage bill. Beale's confirmed that we're going to have a clear out in the summer, more or less, in a presser last week. So I think it'll be other people who go. It won't. And right now, I've got to say, I'd be absolutely devastated if Kent went, and I want Alfie to stay as well. But I think they both will. Yeah,
no, I hope so. I really hope so. Now, one player from Kilmarnock that I wanted your thoughts on is Danny Armstrong, who, until he gets sent off in the second half, I felt we had a more than decent game, and in the first half in particular, he was a constant threat for Killie, by far their kind of best player, to be honest. Now, we've been linked with signing him recently, and taking out the fact that both Alfie and Borna would probably poleaxe him in his first training session, is he a player that you've been impressed by, and do you think maybe he's worth a punt?
Well, he certainly had me watching the game through my fingers the other night, and the early part is I think it's 3 corners come on at one in the first 6 minutes after
he had that shot as well.
And I think he took 2 of the corners for the right-hand side. So he can't take corners for both sides. So that's a demerit straight away. But he's put in a couple of cracking corners, and he scored from the second one that he took. And he was giving us a hard time down that side. Ryan Kent had to take him out. And Ryan Kent copped his yellow card for fouling him. cracking player. I'd need to see more of him. Brian, I would really need to see more of him. We're going to McDermott Park tomorrow. It could be another. I was thinking Michael O'Halloran, one of the guys who has a cracking game against Rangers, But it turns out that's the only kind of time he wants to play,
I was thinking Jordan Jones. He always did a cracking game against us.
An even better example, Rugby Park.
That's what kind of came to my mind.
Even when he was signing for us, there's no score against us after he'd actually signed the pre-contract, Aye, brilliant. And then, but he got himself sent off against Celtic, so he must be a real Rangers fan. I would need to see more of him, Brian. But he's certainly impressive the other night. And even what age is he? I forgot to check it. I don't know.
He's 25, so not young. He's kind of in that. He's probably still got a couple of his peak years ahead of him, but he's not so young that we could keep him for a couple of years and sell him for a profit. So maybe.
I know. I'm thinking more a case of. Despite what Derek McInnes was saying, it was a ridiculous. I thought it was a straight red. I know it's a second yellow he went off for, but it was a forearm smash into a guy.
He obviously hasn't read about Bonner's family history, has he?
Exactly. We might not see him again. Maybe there'll be nothing left to sign, if you know what I mean. If he does that to Bonner again. But I think that he's getting a bit too old for that kind of petulance, because that's what it was. Dangerous petulance as well. It's the kind of stuff we lambast Alfredo for. So, maybe getting a bit too old for us to take a punt on. But I need to see more of him. But he definitely had a good game the other night.
Yeah, despite playing far better in the second half, we still managed to concede, for me, what was an entirely preventable goal. Long ball into the box, which neither Davis or Barisic dealt with. And to be fair, right, it was some finish. But what concerns me more is the number and the quality of chances that we're giving oppositions. So this is another area for you that Bill needs to address in the coming weeks and months. I know he's kind of spoken about this again in his presser today. He said we need to stop giving away stupid fouls in our half and things like that. This is kind of another area where he's really got to focus in on in training.
He was kind of horrible to Adam, wasn't he? The presser when Adam asked him about that, I thought it was a bit out of order. I don't really know Adam personally, I just maybe through Twitter or whatever, but I know he's been on Gersnet and he seems like a lovely guy. So I felt a bit sorry for him today. That was you get the kind of sewer treatment for Michael there for asking the question that like we're all asking, like you're asking right now. What's that? 8 competitive games in charge, and we've conceded 2 goals in 4 of those games. Half of those games. So that is a worry. We can't. The problem we have just now with the Michael Beale run, it seems really spoiled. Seems really ungrateful to be complaining when you've only dropped points in one of his 8 games in charge. Or one of them was a league. That was a cup game, obviously. But you think we can't keep going like this? We can't. We've also fallen behind in 4 of those games, half of those games, and you can't keep recovering. When you're losing the first goal, we're managing it just now, but we're either going to give somebody a total pasting and keep a clean sheet, or we're going to drop points. We're going to get put out a cup, for example. It's going to go badly at some point. So, it's got to go one way or the other. And if we keep conceding these goals, you're absolutely right. It's going to be the worst scenario. I think the part, and I think you mentioned this today, Bill, keep attacking. Get a midfield that's not going to let the ball get to that position. And he's right what he's saying. Stop conceding these fouls that are letting the ball come into the box. I mean, Tillman did it for that goal you're talking about, for the command second goal, but he also did it, when it was like 30 seconds of, injury time to go, like 92 and a half minutes, and we're up the amount of times we are, not just under Michael Beale, not just under Gio, just for the last, since we come back up into top flight, the number of times we've been winning a game by a goal and we have the ball up the opposition end of the park when the clock hits the end of injury time, and we still see chances at the Rangers end before the final whistle was blown. That the other night was giving me heart attacks, the way we ended that game the other night. And Bill was saying it's coming from us giving away stupid fouls and allowing set pieces. But I think to balance that out, we have to be grateful that it is set pieces are the only problem. I mean, set pieces are something you can work on. The McLaughlin thing didn't work the other night. And that might be a case of we're not giving a keeper a chance to settle in. Pick McLaughlin or McGregor. But I've gone from thinking, I don't want Robbie McCrory getting a chance this season because we shouldn't be giving an untested kid. I know he played that Old Firm game there and he kicked a clean sheet. But somebody who hasn't played for like basically a year and a half, we shouldn't be trying him out in games this season where we hope to be competing right to the end of it. But I've come full circle on that after having watched the last 2 goalkeeper performances for Rangers. Get Robbie McCrory in there because he couldn't do any worse. But it might be because McGregor and McLaughlin aren't getting a chance. But McLaughlin was in the other night to command his box. He got let down, I think, by centre halves as well, particularly Davis. They just couldn't seem to get off the ground, but it was awful. It was an absolute calamity. The first goal and that second goal, the fact that we couldn't clear the ball, we couldn't win the first header. It wasn't actually directly from the free kick. It got worked around the park a bit, but when it got floated in basically like a set piece, and all the big players for Kilmarnock were up there waiting for it, and we couldn't deal with it. So it is a massive concern. But I'm looking for more from my centre halves as well. But I think it will come.
Yeah. Now back to cup action for Rangers on Saturday. We've got a trip to Perth in the Scottish Cup. St Johnstone, not in the best of form of late. I had a look earlier today at their kind of recent run. Only one win in the last 5 domestically. But I mean, we know what to expect in terms of how Callum Davidson sets his sides up to play against us. It will be kind of compact and defensive. We'll need to break them down. Do you see this as a potential banana skin, given the extra significance the Cups have taken on this season with the league not going how we'd hoped so far?
It's absolutely massive. I think also when you look at the scenario, we've got St Johnstone again in the league, and our next game is like at home. It's a reversal of what happened the last time we played them. We had them in the league at McDermott on the Wednesday night. We put out a kind of weakened team, and we ended up losing an equaliser with the last kick of the ball. Didn't matter. The title was in the bag for so long during the 55 season, so early. But at that point, we were chasing the defensive record, and we're trying to keep our unbeaten record, to keep that going to the end of the season. So it was a bugger, that game. In St Johnstone, I think we're in much the same situation. They only in that season during 55, they only clinched a top 6 spot, 1 goal difference in the last day of the season. They've been kind of struggling against relegation while winning both cups. Quite amazing. And I think just now they're the 8th. They've had some good wins, the best one being against ourselves. The last game Rangers lost was at McDermott. And McDermott Park is becoming one of the places that it used to be, as I was saying to you beforehand, the first time McDermott Park comes into your consciousness, we are thinking back as a Rangers fan of my age, is Stefan Guivarch, a World Cup winner, making his debut there on a Sunday night as we win 7-0 in the league. It was never a problem, McDermott, but it's become, it's particularly during the Gerrard era as well. It crept in with a 2 weeks draw up there, and then with a struggling win last season, we had to come back from behind. Again, problems with our goalkeeper, my centre halves letting O'Halloran in to score. But a Tav wonder goal, and eventually we pull it back. This season we couldn't pull it back despite having 200 corners in the first 5 minutes. So I think the other thing with St Johnstone is they're going to. I mean, if you watch the highlights of their game, they get beat by Livingston. Put 4 past them last week. I think Livingston were 3-0 up at half time against them last week in the league at McDermott, and they were getting booed. They were getting booed from the first minute, or the first goal they conceded. They were getting booed off the park at half time, booed off the park at full time. So they've got a boycott going on tomorrow, obviously, because the price of tickets. 10 years ago, almost to the day, Rangers were on Tayside, and it was us that were boycotting the Scottish Cup match at Tannadice. Our support wasn't turning up for that one. I think it's a situation reversed tomorrow. We've got 3 sides of the stadium, but I don't think St Johnstone are going to be particularly bothered because their own fans have been hating them recently. So that'll let them off. They might actually enjoy going out into a game where they've got nothing to lose. So we really need to watch ourselves. We really need to be honest, and we really need this Scottish Cup. We really need a run. We don't need to be going out of this just now. We don't need to be halting the Michael Beale run. This isn't like we're going to Parkhead, and we might lose and go out the Scottish Cup and end the Michael Beale run of unbeaten games. But we can still kind of accept it. We can still kind of take some positives. This would be a wee bit of a disaster. So we need to be on it. Yeah,
definitely. Now, I think due to kind of injuries, I don't think Beale's got too many options in terms of rotating the squad. What are your thoughts in terms of how you expect this to line up? Do you expect any surprises, or do you think you'll kind of go with the kind of tried and trusted?
Because it doesn't matter what happens in goals now. It can't be a surprise anymore. It'll be a surprise if there's not a surprise in goals. So I'm not worrying about that. But I think Ryan Jack, I would like to see him back. Obviously, a massive Ryan Jack fan, but I was saying this earlier today. It was like a mud bath at Hampden in the League Cup. Midweek, we're playing like a frozen plastic bouncy castle at Rugby Park. Tomorrow it's a sandpit. Another thing I noticed last week, I think Beale alluded to it today, was the amount of sand on the park at McDermott. So in this weather, if it's hard and it's dry, there's not a lot of give. Maybe Ryan Jack doesn't get a start in that either. Maybe there's not enough give for the injury that he's coming back from. But if Tony's back, that's a big Tony, like he's everybody's best mate in like an American sitcom set in a local bar. Hey, Tony's back. I don't think he'll be starting. He's obviously going to come off the bench if anything, and Beale more or less confirmed that today. I don't know how, but if it's okay for him to be risked possibly in that pitch, I think Ryan Jack would be okay. So yeah, I'm going to go. Well, the starting 11 from Hampden basically would do for me, mate.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Now, I think we'll finish up on some chat about every football fan's favourite time of the season, and that's the transfer window. So far at the time of recording, Rangers are yet to officially make any significant signings in this window. The three players who have been heavily linked with social media is to believe there's Morgan Whittaker of Swansea, Nicholas Raskin of Standard Liège, and Todd Cantwell of Norwich City, and every football fan's favourite transfer source, Fabrizio Romano, going as far as saying a deal for Cantwell is now being agreed and he expected it would be completed in the coming days. And I think Jordan Campbell in the Athletic has also kind of a similar story. Are these the types of players that you think the squad needs to provide that freshness that was spoken about previously?
Aye. Yeah, I mean, well, two of them anyway. Raskin, I mean, that don't really know anything about him, but that's what you want from a kind of pugnacious midfielder. A Raskin, it sounds like, he was rasking about the midfield, it's kind of nominative determinism, a bit of onomatopoeia there. Even his name sounds like the business. From the few stats I could understand from the likes of our good friend Patrick Caskey, an old man like me who's kind of trying to break down his charts and what have you, it seems like he puts himself about. He's a great central midfielder, defensive midfielder, full of energy. And I think, yeah, we definitely need that, because we have struggled at times in there. John Lundstrom's been having the best of seasons. It's been up and down. I know he's been carrying injury as well, but you can see it at times that we need a bit more in there. We need a bit more energy. We need a bit more, my favourite word, bampottery. We need to get, a bampot in there. He came on for 20 minutes against us when we played Standard Liège at Ibrox. As Beale himself was saying, he didn't play in Liège in the first game in that Europa League group stage a couple of seasons ago. But Standard Liège were great that night at Ibrox, even though we ultimately beat them. But he was the first of the kind of tactical subs that night. So he knows Ibrox, he knows the situation. I think the whole of Europe will I hope they haven't watched my Champions League campaign, but they'll see the Europa League and what a great place it is to play. So Standard Liège, the Belgian league in general, it's a hard school, it's a hard league, it's a good level, a really good level. And if he's surviving in there and thriving in there, then I'm quite surprised that we're actually getting him. I think the word from the transfer experts is that it was going to be Glenn Kamara was getting released in the summer, and we're targeting Raskin. So hopefully there's already been communication, and if it sounds like he's coming, then I'm really excited about that one. Your man Todd Cantwell. Oh, beautiful blonde-haired boy, but that's really all I think. Oh yeah, I remember he scored against Man City, and I'm thinking, but was that no 2 years ago? And there was a fellow in the Rangers Review, a Norwich pod the other day. I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing. I really should have, because I don't know anything about him so far. The main thing I remember about Todd Cantwell is his hair. That is it. So he looks like a flair player. He dresses like a flair player. He's got flair, but I just don't know. You're thinking if you can't get a game at Norwich, Norwich surplus to requirements there when they're kind of not doing so well. I don't know if he's going to make the grade at Rangers, but I don't think Michael Beale is short on knowledge when it comes to signing targets. I think he'll have it all worked out. So I hope he's just going to come and provide something. It's just that's more a case of we need new bodies. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just happy to see him arrive, but I know nothing about him. Whereas I like the sound of Morgan Whittaker at Swansea. Well, he's not really played for Swansea. That's the problem. But he basically put Plymouth Argyle top of the league by the sounds of things. 9-11 goals or something, 30 odd games this season, 7 assists. They sold him they bought him for about 700,000 2 years ago. I've got a Welsh friend, Hugh. He was sending me some kind of a wee article about him earlier on tonight, and it looks like there's a bidding war going on. Kind of he's our old pal Russell Martin's. I might play him. If I play him tomorrow, that's it. You can't get him. So I think with the Rangers game kicking off at 5:30, we're going to have somebody, in the Liberty Stadium or whatever. No, it's QPR. They're playing QPR of all teams at Loftus Road, just saying he's getting his socks on. He's warming up. Does he look like he's coming? Right. Okay, it's 200,000. Apparently they're wanting 3 million. They're asking 3 million. We've bid 1.5. But surely 2 million, even 1.75 will probably do it. So when he gets the high vis vest off, and he starts taking the training top off, the minute you see him in that wee training bra thing, up it to 2 million in his hours. But he sounds like an option. He sounds like somebody I would be quite interested to see. But I think we definitely need freshening up. And it's a strange thing. Bill keeps talking about how we need players to compete with each other and somebody competing for every position, but he also wants a settled team as well. So it's mixed messages from Mick. But we need to get a few players in, mate. I think that's obvious.
Yeah, definitely. All three kind of sound like they could be really exciting additions. One other thing that kind of came out of the press conference was Kemar Roofe confirmed another injury, 4 weeks on the sideline with shoulder injury, no surgery required. But are we getting to the point where maybe a decision needs to be made if we keep him beyond the summer? I think he's still got 1 year left in his contract beyond the summer. As good as he is when he's fit, we can't keep someone on kind of his reported salary who isn't really fit all that often. I feel for the lad. It's not his fault. I'm not here to blame him or anything, but is it time for Rangers to maybe think of themselves a bit and just kind of think at the end of the day we need players that can contribute?
It absolutely is, but I hope we don't. And just keep Kemar Roofe forever. I just keep gambling, keep throwing away the money. He's that expensive car. It's too big an engine and all that. You don't need it. And obviously it's breaking down and whatever. If I knew more about cars, I could do a better analogy, a better metaphor for that. But he's so good. I mean, he's come on for 5 minutes and put us in a cup final. As I was saying last week, mate, if he'd been on for another minute, he would have won as the European. He won as the Europa League, if he'd been fit for a minute longer in that game. He's so good, and we've got a lot of players like that, a few players like that. They're even the new arrivals, Suter. We've never really heard of John Suter, apart from that day at Livingston. And I think we knew Suter's history when we brought him in. I'm saying we need to keep Alfie and get rid of other people. I'm saying we need to keep Ryan Kent, and if we have to, get rid of other people. I'm saying now, Kemar Roofe. I'm not actually naming who I want to get rid of because I want to keep everybody. I'm a hoarder by nature. And as soon as you've put in a Rangers shirt, as soon as you've done one good thing for Rangers, I'm on your side. I find it very hard to get rid of. I think it's only Joey Barton and Ian Black are the only two players I've actively disliked from the moment they arrived to the moment they left. They've never won me over. And I basically hated seeing them in Rangers jerseys. But as soon as you get involved in Rangers, I'm a total sap for that kind of thing. I'm totally on side. As soon as you do something good for us, but I think we should keep Kemar Roofe. I think you just keep gambling on him. I don't care if there's spare money anywhere. Have a whip round. I'll put a couple of £1 in. Keep Kemar Roofe because I just think we come on in that quarter final against Braga. It's almost becoming a thing. It's like a big, Celtic have their asterisks over their title. We've got this kind of asterisk over our first team. That's no bad. We're okay. We look like we could do the business. Asterisk, Kemar Roofe might be fit. We would definitely win that game. Keep him. Keep the asterisk. Yeah. Keep Kemar Roofe. I don't want to get rid of him, but I think common sense, even just common sense tells us we should, but sometimes you've got to kind of horrible corporate phrase. Think outside the box, but Kemar Roofe is our outside the box. Keep him because he's so good. That game against Braga, then the Thursday night, and against Celtic at Hampden, it was magic. Yeah. No, we need to keep him as well.
Yeah, I get your point. Right, now I could probably say for all hour and talk to you about Rangers, Alex, but I think we'll call it time there. Massive thanks. Great insight as always. As we always say, guys, we're live tonight, but the show will be available on all your usual podcasting platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher. And we would ask that you leave us a rating on your preferred podcasting app. And the pod will be back in our usual Sunday evening slot to look back at all the action from McDermott Park. Until next time, guys, bye for now.